Well, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It is so wonderful to be here with you today. My name is Regina Jennings, and this program is called, as you well know, Readings with Regina. And I want to give a big shout out to all my new subscribers. Kisses, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And do spread the word. Now, today, I know this is April Fool's Day, but I believe like Reverend Ishahaka Musa Barashango. I mean, European holidays are a mental genocide for Black people. So I honestly don't really deal with too many of them. But in any event, I ran across something this morning that made me absolutely change or add an addition to what I normally do with you on this program. I went looking for an image, okay, of the book Blake. You know, the one that I always read to you. I've been reading it for, I guess, more than a month now, which is about a Black nationalist freedom fighter during our enslavement, right? Okay. Now, because my program indeed is about books, I went looking for a cover to show you a more updated cover because my books are old, you know? Okay, which makes a point. Now, let me show you what I found. Let me find it here on Amazon about this book. Now, remember, this book is Blake or the Huts of America. And this book is about a Black nationalist freedom fighter, insurrectionist during Black bondage. You understand? When white people owned Black people. Martin Delany created this fictional character, but this fictional character is also based on reality. And I've been reading from this book, Blake or the Huts of America. For those of you who have been with me since the beginning, you know I've been reading from this book quite a lot. Now, let me show you an updated version of Blake or the Huts of America. Let me show you the new book cover of this book. How do you like that? Blake or the Huts of America, Martin R. Delany. Now, would you buy that book, people? Does that book cover tell you anything about our Blake? About our Henry? Now, that's one cover. Take a good look at it. Okay. Let's look at another so-called cover. No image available for Blake or the Huts of America. No image. How do you like that, people? Like, no image. Now, when I did find an image, now this brother is gorgeous. He is drop dead gorgeous. This is the most latest version of Blake or the Huts of America by Martin Delany, 1860 to 1861. This was written. But check this out. This book with this gorgeous cover is listed as Black science fiction. Black science fiction. Black science fiction. Now, I've been reading to you Blake, this version with this cover. Blake is not science fiction. Star Trek is science fiction. This isn't science fiction. But why would publishers and academicians now refer to Blake as science fiction? Because they want to kill off Black revolution, Black insurrection in this country from enslavement to today. And I want all of my listeners to understand that they literally changed from this cover. Now, this cover was painted. This is a painting by a Black painter during the 20s and 30s, Aaron Douglas. And he's actually giving us a picture of a very revolutionary brother, Dessalines from Haiti, who led the rebellion in Haiti against them enslaving French dogs. Now, you might be wondering, well, why is that important? It is very important. A book cover is very important. And for this book to now have an image like this or like this, it tells you that they're covering up history. That's what it tells you. And I want you to know that. And I want you to really understand what it means to read. Okay? Now, you might say, well, is it really that important? Yes. Yes, it is important. And I'll emphasize, America has more prisoners than any other country in the world. More prisoners are here, and more elder prisoners are behind bars, which is inhumane. Okay? I mean, we have Kamal Siddiqui. He's been in jail for decades. We have Imam Jalil Alameen. H-Rap Brown, he's very sick. Look him up, H-Rap Brown. Look him up on the search engine. We have, of course, Mumia Abu Jamal, whose brilliant book, Murder Incorporated, I have been reading from in previous episodes. And we also have Fred Burton III behind bars. He's been in jail since the 1970s or 1970. Does that make sense to you people? Some of you all weren't even born in 1970. Do you understand that? So this means that this brother, Fred Burton III, has been in jail for as long as you've been alive. Does that make sense to you? America is a great cover-up of history. Yes, it is. And let me see if I even want you to see this book that's written about Fred Burton III. It's written by Carol Lineker, a writer activist. And look at what it's called. Look at what it's called. The worst thing we've ever done. Brother Love, Brother Fred, been in jail since 1970. Does that make any sense to you? And I forgot to mention this. There's another good sister working on Fred Burton's case. She's one of my Panther sisters, Ethel Paris. We were in Oakland together. Her story, my story is in this book. Comrade sisters. But I don't really want you to concentrate on that. I want you to remember that this brother, Fred Burton the third, which means he had a father and a granddad, and he been in jail since 1970, and you going to tell me America's a country of democracy and equality? No. Now, you know, I really don't like to bring the present with what I'm doing with the past. The books that I'm reading from, they are talking about the African American tradition in the past. And I wanted to stay in the past because I really want my listeners to really understand the foundational degradation that Black people went through during slavery. Why do I want you to know that? Because very often our true history is left out of speeches. It is left out of academic sources. It is even left out of Black politicians' mouths. That is a disgrace. And that is one of the things that I want to correct while I am on earth. And I mean that. And let me just say this to you, too, people. Let me say this. The only reason that this book was even published was because of the demands and the activism of the 1960s and 70s when we said Black studies. We're going to have Black studies. We didn't beg. We didn't petition. We didn't kiss the feet of anybody. We stood up in a unified body of Black people and said, we going to have Black studies. And let me just even point this out again, because many people don't know this. Huey Newton and Bobby Seale started Black Studies at Merritt College in 1964. That is years before San Francisco State started their Black Studies. Understand that. Understand what the co-founders of the Black Panther Party did. They didn't just police the police. They knew that they wanted to make a real commitment to the intellectual elevation of Black people. That's what it's about. That's what it's for. That is the tradition out of which I come. So, this morning, I said, I think I'm going to show my people on Readings with Regina an updated view of Blake. So I just went on the internet. I just went to Amazon. I went to other academic sites, to get a new cover. So I got this new cover. I'm going to show it to you again because this is important. Here you go, Blake. Blake is fabulously handsome. I love that picture. All right, I'm down. So I'm about to copy the picture and all, getting ready for today's show. And I happen to read the entire cover. Now, you might not be able to see it right down in here, people. I don't know if you can or not. But it says Black science fiction. Science fiction. A brother who goes from plantation to spread the word of stand up, be revolutionary, fight back against your enslavers. That story, now I do know it's a novel, I know that, but it is a novel based upon the reality of the day. Martin Delaney was born, I believe, in 1812. He was born during the enslavement period. So he knew what was up and he wanted to change it. So he creates this character, Blake. And I am going to read Blake today. In fact, I'm going to read him in just a moment, but I needed to express to you the significance of literature, the significance of reading. I've already told you how it expands brain power. And I absolutely wanted to emphasize the deviousness of this country to characterize such an important work as science fiction. Lord have mercy. All right, here we go. Okay, I've gotten that off my chest. I just had to. In fact, I'm not going to read from the half today. I'll catch back up with that. I know that this series is called, well, today's episode is called The Expansion of Enslavers, the British, the French, the Portuguese, and the Spanish. I'll get to them probably on Thursday when we meet again, because I had to talk to you about what they've done with Blake to show you that a black revolutionary, I guess Huey and Bobby going to be science fiction if we're not careful, if we let them get away with this, which my exposure is not. Now, let us go to Blake. Let us see why they would make this science fiction like Star Trek. It couldn't have happened. Let's see what's here that would make enslavers, well, they're not actually enslavers, but those who want to cover up our history in 2025. Let's see what is in Blake that would want them to mischaracterize it as science fiction. All right, we know that Blake now is going from plantation to plantation, and he is interviewing enslaved people and telling them what they need to do. And he's been taking care of business himself. Okay, here we go. Leaving the plantation of Crane with high hopes and great confidence in the integrity of Uncle Moses and the maiden gang of cotton girls, Henry turned his course in a retrograde direction so as again to take the stream of Red River, Little River, where he then was being but a branch of that water. Just below its confluence with the larger stream, at the moment when he reached the junction, a steam cotton trader, that's a big boot, a steam cotton trader hove in view. There was no alternative but to stand like a free man or suddenly escape into the forest. You know, Henry is a runaway for my new listeners, thus creating suspicions and fears, as but a few days previous, a French planter of the neighborhood lost a desperate slave who became a terror to the country around. The matter was compelled to go continually armed, as also other white neighbors and all were afraid after nightfall to pass out the threshold of their own doors. Permission was given to every white man to shoot him if he ever saw him, shooting with his rifle. Having learned the evening before, Henry was armed with precaution. His dress being that of a race groom, small leather cap with long front piece, neat fitting roundabout, high boots drawn over the pantaloon legs, with blanket, girth, halter, whip, and bridle. Henry stood upon the shore, awaiting the vessel. Well, boy, hailed the captain as the line was drawn out, which he caught, making fast at the root of a tree. Do you wish to come aboard? Good man, approvingly cried the mate at the expert manner which Henry caught the line and tied the sailor knot. Have you ever steamboated, my man? Continued the captain. Yes, sir, replied Henry. Where? On the upper and lower Mississippi, sir. Whom do you know as masters of steamers on the upper Mississippi? Captains Thornton, Price, Swan, and stop, that'll do, interrupted the captain. You know the matter of every steamer in the trade, I believe. Now, who in the lower trade? Captain Scott, Hart, and what's Captain Hart's Christian's name? Interrupted the captain. Jesse, sir. That'll do. By George, you know everybody. Do you want to ship? No, sir. What are you doing here? I'm hunting. Master stray racehorse. Your master's racehorse? Are you a slave boy? Yes, sir. How did you come to be on the Mississippi River? I hired my time, sir. Yes, yes, boy, I see. Who's your master? Colonel Sheldon. I used to belong to Major Gilmore. Are you the boy Nip, the great horse trainer the Major used to own? No, sir, I'm his son. Are you as good at training horses as the old chap? They call me better, sir. Then you're worth your weight in gold. Will your master sell you? I don't know, sir. How did your horse come to get away? He was bought from the Major by Colonel Sheldon to run at the Great Greenwood Races, Texas. And while training, he managed to get away, leaping the fences and taking to the bars. Then you're Major Tom's race rider, Gilbert? You're a valuable boy. I wonder the Major parted with you. The bell having rung for dinner, the captain left, Henry going to the deck. Among those on deck was a bright mulatto, as a biracial person, young man, who immediately recognized Henry as having seen him on the upper Mississippi, he being a free man. On going up to him, Henry observed that he was laden with heavy manacles. Have I seen you somewhere before? Inquired he. Yes, my name is Louis Grimes. You saw me on the upper Mississippi, replied the young man. Your name is Henry Highland. What have you been doing? Inquired Henry on seeing the handcuffs. Nothing at all, replied he with eyes flashing resentment and suffering. What does this mean? Continued he, pointing to the handcuffs. I am stolen and now being taken to Texas, where I am to be enslaved for life, replied Louis, sobbing. Who did this vile deed? Continued Henry, in a low tone of voice, pressing his lips to suppress his feelings. One Dr. John of Texas, now passenger on this boat. Was that the person who placed a glass to your lips, which you refused, just as I came aboard? Yes, that's the man. Why don't you leave him instantly? Said Henry, his breast heaving with emotion. Because he always handcuffs me before the boat lands, keeping me so during the time the boat lies ashore. Why don't you jump overboard when the boat is underway? Said Henry. Because he guards me with heavy loaded rifle and I can't get a chance. He guards you? You can't get a chance? Are there no nights? And does he never sleep? Yes, but he makes me sleep in the stateroom with him, keeping his rifle at his bedside. Are you never awake when he sleep? Often, but I'm afraid to stir lest he wakens. Well, don't you submit. Die first. You see this? Don't you submit. Die first. If thereby you must take another into eternity with you, were it my case and he ever went to sleep where I was, he'd never wake up in this world. Now, that's our Henry. Okay? You see that kind of fighting spirit that he had? You see that? Yes. All right. Now I'm going to switch to Brother Fred, the narrative of Frederick Douglass. This is very important because the section that came up very naturally next, my book is just falling apart. Look, just look at this. I got to find a book binder. But in any event, Fred is talking about education, and I want all of you all within the sound of my voice to hear what Frederick Douglass has to say about education. Now, he's being taught to read. Well, he's not really being taught to read, but he's getting with these little white kids because he's about 12 years old. And these little white kids, boys, are kind of showing him how to read, and he's giving them bread because they're poor whites, and they're teaching him what they're learning in school. It is enough to say of the dear little fellows that they lived on Philpott Street, very near Durgan and Bailey Shipyard. I used to talk this matter of slavery over with them. I would sometimes say to them, I wished I could be as free as they would be when they got to be men. And they would say, You will be free as soon as you are 21. But I tell them, But I'm a slave for life. Have not I as good right to be free as you have? These words used to trouble them. Remember now, these are all little kids. They would express for me the liveliest sympathy and console me with the hope that something would occur by which I might be free. I was now about 12 years old, and the thought of being a slave for life began to bear heavily upon my heart. Just about this time, I got hold of a book entitled The Columbian Orator. Every opportunity I got, I tried to read this book. Among much of other interesting matter, I found in it a dialogue between a master and his slave. The slave was represented as having run away from his master 3 times. The dialogue represented the conversation which took place between them when the slave was retaken the 3rd time. In this dialogue, the whole argument in behalf of slavery was brought forward by the master, all of which was disposed of by the slave. The slave was made to say some very smart as well as impressive things in reply to his master, things which had the desired, though unexpected, effect. For the conversation resulted in the voluntary emancipation of the slave on the part of the master. In the same book, I met with one of Sheridan's mighty speeches on in behalf of Catholic emancipation. These were choice documents to me. I read them over and over and over again with unabated interest. They gave tongue to interesting thoughts of my own soul, which had frequently flashed through my mind and died away for want of utterance. The moral which I gained from the dialogue was the power of truth over the conscience of even a slaveholder. What I got from Sheridan was a bold denunciation of slavery and a powerful vindication of human rights. The reading of these documents enabled me to utter my thoughts and to meet the arguments brought forward to sustain slavery. But while they relieved me of one difficulty, they brought on another, even more painful than the one of which I was relieved. The more I read, the more I was led to abhor and detest my enslavers. I could regard them in no other light than a band of successful robbers who had left their homes, gone to Africa, and stolen us from our homes, and in a strange land reduced us to slavery. You see this? Now, I'm going to jump back to Blake for just a minute and then I'm going to come forward to Fred. Notice how smart Blake was when that sea captain asked him all of those questions. Notice how Blake Henry was able to answer those questions because he had studied his landscape. He knew the geography. He knew who was whom. So he was able to trick the white man who could indeed have killed him or put him in bondage. Notice that Blake was dressed a certain way. He was dressed as if he was a horse trainer. He had all of that together. And most of all, that brother had knowledge. He had knowledge of his country. He had knowledge of his region. So he was able to out-slick the white dude. You dig? Now, as a black nationalist, when he boarded the ship, he went right to another black man. The black man was in manacles, handcuffs. And what did Blake say to him? Blake said to him, Look here, you're going to have to do something about your circumstances, my man. Now, you know I'm paraphrasing. Freedom is on you. And Blake was giving him the courage to take his freedom by any means necessary. Because although slavery was legal, slavery was wrong. Now, once Fred learned how to read, which is why Readings with Regina was created. Once he learned how to read, he couldn't stand his circumstances any longer. He had to do something to change his circumstances. Thank you, James. Oh, James, how are you? Yes. Wonderful. James sends me lovely little notes. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. So check this out. Once Fred learned how to read, that was it. He hated his enslavers. As well he should. And I'm going to give another shout out to the Black Panther Party for self-defense. We weren't playing. We knew that we had to instill our own sense of liberty in this country of gross segregation. Gross segregation. Understand that during Marcus Garvey's time, black men were lynched. Yeah, you know they were lynched all during in slavery. You know that. Did anybody go to jail? I don't think so. I don't think so. It was fine. So the Black Panther Party for self-defense had to take bold actions. Okay, we had to be brave. And that's why I gave a shout out to my sister Ethel Paris, a Panther in Philadelphia and in Oakland, California. Lord have mercy. Because we wanted to change what was going on in America. And part of that change had to do with literacy, had to do with reading, had to do with Black literature. Doggone it. Fred Douglass, Black literature. Blake of the Huts of America, Black literature. And I've shown you the different covers that they've made over time about Blake. One of them covers, let me just wait a minute. I got another. Yeah, right on, Cliff. We ain't playing. I'm gonna show you and then I'm gonna sign off. I gotta show you again. I just gotta show you again. Who would buy this book? You wouldn't know that this book was about a Black revolutionary. This is a contemporary cover of Blake or the Huts of America, what I've been reading to you. You see that? And let me even show you this again, because no image. They didn't have any image for our Blake that I just read to you. And then when they do have an image, which this brother is, Lord have mercy, he's handsome. Anyway, he's now classified as science fiction. This is Star Trek. You believe that? Well, believe that, people. I want you to remember this. Yes, I know America is your country, but America has not been good to Black people. Don't get it twisted. Do not believe everything that you see on TV. In fact, watch as little TV as possible. Read more. It helps the brain. And even more importantly than you reading, get your children to read. Get the proper books for them. Read with them. Read to them. Test them. Show them any of these episodes that you think is appropriate for them. Have a Saturday school right in your own home. And if you can, have it more than Saturday. All right? Well, brothers and sisters, it is always so good to be with you. And I'm not playing. Know that you are wonderful. That's why I created these little banner things. You are beautiful and wonderful. What you brought to this country is miraculous. I'm going to talk more about that on Thursday. But in the meantime, Know that I love you dearly. Know that I pray for you every morning and every night. And know that I look forward to seeing you this coming Thursday at 2 o'clock. And of course, if you can't be here at 2, thank goodness we have reruns. Okay. I'll talk with you soon.